1079 CDY. This is Cadillac Unscripted. This is our first anniversary show plus one on 1079 CDY. And before we finish the show today, we're going to talk a little bit about our new Facebook page in more specifics and give out some thank yous to those who are responsible for designing it, and also to our new likers who, about 4 dozen of which signed up in the first 30 minutes that the page was live, which is pretty awesome.
That's great.
And I'm telling Katy about this because she knows nothing of Facebook.
I've never been on it. I have not. I'm a dinosaur. Okay, I'm a dinosaur. So I can't wait to see what this looks like.
Fantastic.
But let's get to it this morning, Rich. You know, I feel certain that you didn't spend much time in the principal's office. However,
I did.
Oh, you did?
We'll tell that story later.
Okay, good. Well, we've got the boss of Cadillac High School with us this morning. Konrad Molter is the principal of Cadillac High School. Welcome, Konrad.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me today.
So, first of all, and this is a big question, how's it going?
That's a great question. I think we always have, that's $1 million question, right?
Right.
Things are going great. Our kids are very resilient. We've been throwing curveballs since, I want to say the magic date was March 13th. And it was a Friday the 13th. That's when it all started.
Oh, man.
For us. And so, we've gone to fully remote, never coming back to school. How do we graduate to, this fall? We're coming back. And then next thing you know, we have 120 kids out on quarantine. So then we try to deduce what would be the best way to do things. And then the governor said, no, we're not going to go to school. We actually went home, did remote learning a week before the governor came out and said it. So we felt maybe we made the right decision at the time. And now, and so here we are back. We're able to come face to face in Cadillac schools. But we decided to modify our schedule once upon our return from Christmas break that we came back, and now we're doing an alternating schedule at this point.
What does that look like? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we actually followed a model from several schools downstate, and what that does, it looks like our student population was divided into 2 groups, and since our colors are blue and gold, we decided to, entitle them blue and gold. Mm-hmm. And at first we started where's the ideal break in our alphabet if we went alphabetically. We had a lot of things to consider when we looked at this. So we started with A through K and then or L, but it went to A through K and then L through Z. We bounced the idea. It's been going in our brains for about a month and a half. Teachers had shared their family stories. They have teachers that teach in the system that does that, and have other people that were employees to other districts, and said the good, the bad, the ugly. And so we started vetting it, and then ran it past some of our board members to see if we have any support on that idea of doing this, because it's pretty aggressive approach, because you're not going to school half the time, in person.
Right.
And so we looked at it and said, well, A through K sounds great, but there are other nuances. So we've got band, orchestra, and choir. How do you break that up? How do you break a band up?
Oh, man.
By alpha, so we took all these things into consideration, and our teachers decided to look at the master list and then break things up accordingly, really for our groups that are connected, such as a band. And Mr. Rockwell did a great job by having an A and a B band, if you will. I don't know what he entitled them, whether they're blue and gold, but
I think he wanted to be able to have 2 different bands function independently. Isn't that right?
That's exactly right. So that's how it went down. So they're able to compete in the MSVMA and the MSBOA band and choir and orchestra competition. So they're still doing them. They're doing them more remotely. But now you're right. You have a full band that can play. And so now we have 2 functioning bands, which is cool. Maybe we'll have a jazz band out of that. Who knows what can come from it, right?
This sounds like air traffic control.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm envisioning a bunch of CAPS administrators in a room with a bunch of papers on the wall and push pins.
And then it's well, wait a minute, we need a trumpet. You know, I mean,
Right.
This
So-
is crazy.
It was like NASA. There you go. And
So you had that alphabetical
We
list.
had a master list, and then started sharing it with staff, and then the staff went back to their rooms. So now you got all these generals working on this. This is exactly
boy.
it, because they had to take their class and divide it. And so looking at the list and what it would be, what it looked like, and then teachers said, well, I have, out of 30 kids, I have one room with 24 and the other one with 4. So what do I do? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So then they adjusted, and then now you've got to factor in multiple factors, such as students that have siblings. So our band students who have siblings that are their rides, they need to jump to the gold day instead of the blue day, and then you have sports teams. Yeah,
I'm getting a headache here just thinking about sorting all this out.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tylenol works really well.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And how's it going?
I went around because I knew we were going to chat, so I just wanted to get some takes from some students and some teachers, and so kind of from their perspective, really, because I can sit behind the desk and look at the computer screen and think it's going great by looking at daily attendance, but the true test is from the kids and the teachers, and comments from teachers were like, I am just so thankful that I'm actually seeing kids face to face.
Oh wow.
So that was really telling to me, because we're on a trimester schedule. So these kids started their second trimester on that pause. So they never saw their teacher in person since November, when it started at after Thanksgiving. So January 4th was the first time that they came into school and saw their second semester teachers. And we had a boatload of our students. I know they're brilliant, but they forgot their locker combination. They forgot their schedule. And that sounds strange, but if you really look at it, they haven't been in school. So mentally, they just flipped open their computer.
Right.
They didn't physically walk from classroom to classroom. They didn't have to communicate with their friends at lunchtime. All this was relearned information, and it really was telling about how complacent we can be, or how much we get out of our rhythm and our patterns. So it's been positive, but it's also been frustrating, because students who are gold had to wait an extra day for break, and believe it or not, they were requesting to be blue because they wanted to get back to school.
Wow.
That does not surprise me.
That's
now,
awesome.
I will tell you, at the CTC, we've had so many kids say, we cannot wait to come back and see you again. When Konrad, as an administrator, when have you ever heard that before? Other than last year,
He says it's refreshing.
Yeah, other than last year, of course, but
Correct. Yeah. Well, there was a big cheer last year when I announced to the students that they need to take all their work home with them, because we may not be returning to school. And the cafeteria had a big roar of students saying, "We're out." It's like a big long, snow day for them. But I think they got old very quickly.
They crave structure.
They do. They really do. And so with that, our special education population, which is a very, significant number of students who need additional help and support, our schedule, we are not following the blue and gold model. We're actually bringing them in every day.
I see.
As well as our CTC students. So, Richard, you would know that our kids, we're providing transportation with them every day, but CTC has done a great job of social distancing and managing out there, that we felt it's important that they come every day as well. So we've limited our numbers in our classrooms, but we've given them the daily routine for those special education kids and CTC kids, because there are certifications, other things that they're counting on, and they just won't get that without having that daily contact.
I just love hearing your focus on the students, and I found that about CAPS in general, that there is such a commitment to students in the Cadillac area and to their success. And so to piggyback that, how are your teachers doing? This sounds like twice as much work to me for teachers. How are they doing? How's your team?
Right. That's a very important part, because if they're not doing well, then we're not doing well. It's the happy wife, happy life syndrome, but it really is true. It's they were very stressed about this decision. When we had this conversation about going blue and gold back in late October, early November, there wasn't a lot of argument about it. And so, as an administrator, when you're trying to make decisions, you want a collaborative decision, so you feel like there's buy-in, because you can't run over the fence and nobody's behind you if you're in, hey, come on with me, and there's nobody there. Well, we came to realize that when I said we'll just come back face to face every day, full instruction, and just deal with the quarantining and the contact tracing and all the other headaches that go with that, then they started complaining, or not complaining, but I would say giving me their input.
Okay.
And so I realized, in a conversation, if you're leading a class instruction and you want to have, dialogue within a room, you throw controversial topics up, and that way it'll, get their ire going. And it did. And I realized, and I said, when we started talking Blue Gold, there was very little bit of dialogue. And that really told me after the fact that was something that they could at least get their head around, to say, I can do it, but what does that mean for me? How much work is that going to be? And so when we came back and peeled that apart, we explained, yes, our kids are not going to get through the complete curriculum like we normally would, but what school system had done that last year? We were the only school system in the area that had to do a full trimester of work to get credit last spring. We were getting seniors graduated because they hadn't had an English class. So we had to have the full English 12B class for students when other students had already gotten their credit. So if they had enough to pass, the school district said, you graduate. Well, we're no different, but we had certain expectations. Well, these teachers said, if they're on one day and off the next day, what do I have to do? Do I have to Zoom? And I said, no, we're not Zooming. If we're face-to-face instruction, which is the most important way to deliver instruction and curriculum, you would work on one day, and then you're planning for one day, but you're doing it over a course of 2 days. So therefore, you can give extended work, homework, or even, pre-read material to be prepared for the next class, so you can work smarter and not harder.
I see.
So yeah, they felt more at ease, but there are still teachers that, they are so dedicated to this profession that they're working tirelessly to get the curriculum as much as they can to get these kids, because they do their job, and they owe it to the kids, and so I'm just trying to calm them down to say, it's okay, let's breathe. The most important thing right now is that social emotional connection that these kids need, and so that's been a game changer when some of my more rigorous teachers, if you will, are really having that struggle between how much can I get through, content, quality versus am I connecting with my students? So
what a challenge.
That's been the struggle, yeah.
Right. So you're telling me that maybe on the off day that they have work that they need to complete for when they come back on the next day.
Correct. There's some kids that got work on Sunday before school started because their goal, they didn't start till Tuesday. And I said, what do you mean you have work to do? And they said, well, my teachers gave me the stuff to read before we start on Tuesday. And I went, wow, those teachers are really dedicated. That's
awesome.
That's awesome. It really is. We don't want to overburden students, too. It's almost like they're on a college-type schedule. So they're frustrated. Students are frustrated, and because their rhythm is out of rhythm. So high schoolers like to sleep miraculously. So one day I got to get up for school, and then the next day I don't have to be up for school. So. So their rhythmic patterns and everybody's pattern is off right now. So, but it's definitely a calm environment at school.
Good.
Throughout the hallways, within the classes, they're more than 6 feet away in classes. So we've done a great job balancing as best we can.
We're going to take a break, Konrad, and we're going to come back and chat about some other things happening at Cadillac Area Public Schools. Our sponsor is Independent Bank here on 107.9 CDY. We'll be back in just a moment with more Cadillac Unscripted. 107.9 CDY, it's Cadillac Unscripted, Part 2 with our guest, Konrad Molter, the principal at Cadillac High School. Educators and administrators are doing amazing work right now, and we're going to spend this last 10, 15 minutes talking about some other things happening at Cadillac High School.
We are. So the students are 1 day on, 1 day off. The blue and gold schedule is what it's called. And on the days that they're off, what we're hearing is teachers are sending them home with work, but everybody's got cabin fever. It's January, and everybody's been kind of stuck at home for too long. And so, Konrad, what are some things that parents could be suggesting for their kids to do, and what high school students should be doing when they're not completing their work to stay, emotionally healthy and physically healthy?
Sure, it's a great way. I mean, especially as a parent, because you kind of wonder, like, what am I doing? What am I expecting my child to do? Mm-hmm. So I think really check in and connect with the kids often. There's a couple ways. One, our teachers are more than willing to communicate with parents on some expectations. Strangely enough, that students come home from school, and when a parent says, "How was your day?" and "What did you do?" and "What do you have to do? Do you have homework?" It's amazing how the conversation gets quiet, and the student might say, "Oh, I didn't do anything, and I don't have homework," which most likely is not the case. But check in with the teachers, check in with by email. It's a good way to do that, to know, hey, some teachers have weekly updates. They have blogs. We actually offer a CHS weekly update every Friday. We send out an update to our students and parents. Lots of it is about social emotional well-being.
Great.
So it gives them ideas, resources on what to do. We've asked teachers to embed physical activity within their own framework, whether it's an English class or a physical fitness class. So,
really?
So teachers would say, even when we did Zooms, teachers would say, all right, the next 10 minutes I want you to do some calisthenics, or I want you to go outside and I want you to go look for some trees to write about, or what have you. And so they understand the importance. But on those off days, it's easy to get lethargic. It's easy to sit around and think you have nothing to do. But if parents would check in, with those students, or even get with the teachers to say, behind the scenes, what can I do to support my kid, or what do you want me to do to encourage them to get this work accomplished? They still have to earn the credit to graduate. So that's a great way to do it. And then don't forget the almighty chores that parents can provide. I mean, this is an opportunity to give you that. That's right. Mm-hmm. I have a home person there that can do some things that I've always wanted to get done, like dusting some blinds or whatever,
I love it.
But yeah, getting them up moving is really what it's all about. But then they feel there's a self-worth and the value that they provided. And again, that social emotional well-being is really, really crucial.
Mm-hmm. Then feeling productive and feeling part of something larger than yourself. And we know that mom's not coming down to college to clean the bathroom, Konrad. So they also need to have this skill set when they leave home, that they don't call and say, well, I don't know how to make macaroni and cheese,
Yes, that's true. And then this time they can have dinner ready when the parents get home.
I like it.
Other ways to learn self-sustaining activities and skills, which can be really utilized at this time.
Mm-hmm.
When life hands you lemons, you might just as well make lemonade out of it,
Absolutely.
And I will tell you that at least at the CTC, our second years in the digital media program, while they were on break at home, were tasked with making a video diary.
Oh, I like it.
What is life like for you at home during this period of time? And I will tell you, those we ended up sharing those videos with administration at the CTC because they all said, it is so hard for me to be motivated to complete this work when I'm not sitting alongside my classmates and working toward a common goal.
Right.
And
absolutely.
Did you hear that too, Konrad?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We are motivated by our peers, and we're social creatures. Mm-hmm. And this isolation, when they say we're alone together, I have a really difficult time with that because the first thing you hear is alone. So
right.
We may be together alone. I think that's more appropriate. But but again, lemonade is while you're alone. Remember, you've got people are counting on you, and I think the video diary is a great example of that.
Well, and we are what? We're 9 months into this now. We don't have 9 months left. We are way more than halfway through. Mm-hmm. So you really have to kind of keep your eyes on the prize and remember that all indications are a return to more normalcy, maybe not normalcy, but more normalcy,
right,
is not too far away.
I hope so. Konrad, is there, because you've been in education for so long, I think there's a new appreciation for educators and administrators, especially in Cadillac, when you were still doing your meal plan for families and this outreach to parents and students getting work before the goal day even started. Just this commitment to kids, and it really has shined through during this time. Do you think that there's a shift of more appreciation for teachers and administrators in Cadillac from the public?
Our community's been fantastic. I would say, the slight minority who may get really upset and for their own reasons and perspectives, I get that and I understand that. But we've had a pretty solid support from our parents and community for our teachers. So I think there's definitely more appreciation that's out there. I've seen some small businesses provide discounts to teachers and thank you for your work.
Awesome.
Or the comments that we've gotten. I cannot believe, and I go back to an email that a parent took time to write about a teacher, and simply this person spent additional time outside the day. Their patience was much greater than I could ever give my child, working on this particular assignment. And those little anecdotal stories have really come to say, you know what, thank you for doing what you're doing. These teachers went from, a 7:30 to 3:30 day, when they get home, they're exhausted. I mean, they're still continuing grading papers as they always have done. But the technology age and the Zooming and the access to teachers, because they don't want their students to feel abandoned, they have extended their workday and into the weekends and into the wee hours of the night. And so I do like that. Our communities thank them in many ways. But I guess you're right, Katy. I think there's probably more of an appreciation for that. The homeschooling concept, maybe fewer parents will take that option.
That actually leads me to another question, Konrad. So let's rewind. Let's go back to March 1st, 2020, before we had any idea that any of this was going to happen. What post-COVID, are there any things that we have learned in the last few months that will be applied to education that didn't exist in March of 2020?
Yeah, actually, I just talked about that today with another administrator, that we have in the past the old standby, and I know when we had a substitute teacher, the kids would celebrate, boy, we got a day off from the teacher, and and the teacher gets a day off from the kids. I mean, hey, look, it's a two-way street, right? But we've gotten into some technology training with a program called Schoology. Teachers have used Google Classroom in the past, and we're making that instructional shift to using Schoology throughout our entire district. And so what we got from that is when teachers are absent, they would send in the old standard lesson plan, or and I would never say every teacher sends in a video for the substitute to watch, but we all have our experiences with what the lesson plan looked like with a substitute teacher. And bless those hearts. I mean, those are the ones we really need. We still are in great need of subs because it's just. Illness is still out here in our community, and people are sick for a variety of reasons. But what we really learned was when a teacher's absent, they use the Schoology platform. And so I went in, had to substitute for a French class, and Madam Blackmer was home, whatever reason it was for that day. But we had a lot of people out when we were short on subs, so I get a substitute sometimes, and so does my assistant. So we get the experience of what a sub feels like. And
you do what you have to do when you're an administrator, right?
Movie day.
Yeah, well, I was looking for a movie, and I looked around, and the kids were, they're quiet and they're working, and they're Chromebooks, and I finally, after a few minutes of wondering what the heck to do, I looked around, and a student said to me, "It's okay, Mr. Molter. We know what we're doing because Madam Blackmer actually gave us our entire lesson plan and work on Schoology, so we're already started. We've started." So
That's awesome.
I kind of felt embarrassed, but I was proud.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it wasn't spitballs and mayhem.
I was safe. It was amazing. It was a wonderful environment, right? And so I think that's one thing we learned, that through remote technology, we can learn and we can progress. And our students, every one of our students has had the online learning experience that we know we can do. So when a teacher is out for a significant amount of time, for, let's say they're out for a family leave or what have you, we can provide them with curriculum, the content, and put them all online for a brief time. So we know it's not the best learning platform, but we really learn that we can be there without always being there, and not being in the class that one day is not as crucial anymore. When we know we're going to be there the next day, there's a lot less pressure on that, I do believe.
One of the things that I had heard, and I know is not going to ultimately be true, but during snow days, there was always that speculation once we got technology, up and running, that there would be no such thing as snow days anymore, that the kids would have to work on snow days. But snow days are still snow days up to a point, right, Konrad?
Correct. Yeah. If we have a snow day, which I do the phone call to the district for everybody in the district on those snow days, I get the 4:30, 5 a.m. call. And that goes out. That's a snow day. Our online learners, actually, we have a contingency of students that are fully online.
I see.
And we'll continue to offer that option as well in Cadillac schools for the comfort of people who do need to have online and stay home for whatever reason. They actually emailed and said, "Today's a snow day. Do I have to work?" And I said, "Well, I would love to see you work, but by all means, go shovel the walk."
I love it.
Yeah, you're off today, and we'll continue to follow that model unless the state changes. And the state has not formally made any changes to that. But I could see some flexibility in the future, especially when you have an inordinate amount of snow days and those atypical winters.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know last year was not, and so far this year is not, but the year before was nuts.
Yeah.
Something like 15 to 18 snow days, if not more. So, yeah.
So, Konrad, we talked a little bit about kids taking the SAT, kids being prepared, college readiness. Can you tell us about what that looks like and what you're hearing from colleges and universities about entrance?
That's a big fear for a lot of families. They want their students to enter the right school, or maybe the kid's dream school. And last year, Northern Michigan Tech, they waived SAT requirements for students to get in based on the COVID environment and the lack of testing that we didn't do. This fall, we did the makeup test for all our all grade levels, so we've already gotten our first test in, and now here we are in a very similar situation, and we're a matter of a few months away from another mandatory statewide test that I'm not sure it's going to get pulled off or not, because there are still communities downstate that are riddled. That there are students that have not gone fully face-to-face at all. So with that said, I do believe more and more schools are going to go to the waiver process where they're not going to require the SAT score to get in. I could not promise that for every school, but I would stay in contact with their school's admissions office via their online website because it'll tell you what the expectations and requirements are at this time. And that's an ever-changing landscape. So fear not, parents, that if the state waives a mandatory test, as long as you're in contact with those stream schools or schools of choice to know what's expected, we will, and they'll always continue to provide SAT testing, but I remember that that's all done live. And so when they couldn't test, there is a hindrance there, and those colleges do want those incoming freshmen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Konrad, thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you and your team for the incredible work you're doing for our students here in Cadillac. It sounds like you've got everything under control, doesn't it, Rich?
It certainly does.
Yes.
And I will tell you, half the days face-to-face is better than none of them through a computer screen, or all of them through a computer screen,
Right.
Absolutely. We love hearing those voices and laughter down the hallway. We're considering prom right now. What is that going to look like? Can we do it? We're thinking ahead. What is graduation? I mean, all these things are in our thoughts. We continue to put kids first. I mean, constantly. They're our community, and they're so valuable to us. And so we treat them preciously around here for sure. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Konrad. Happy New Year.
Yes, you too. Take care.
And Cadillac Unscripted has a brand new Facebook page. We invite you to like it. It got a lot of likes in the first 15 minutes it was live. And we're going to make an announcement here over the next week or so that will involve something extremely sweet.
Ooh, it's going to be yummy, I promise.
Yes. So we'll leave it at that, and
Okay.
we'll tease it for next week.
And Rich, the other thing we want to hear from people as you teach me about Facebook is we want to know who they want to hear from in
Yes.
the community, because
Yes.
we reach out to folks and we love to talk to people and chat with them. And like we learned so much today, from Konrad. So we want to hear from our listeners. Who do you want us to talk to?
All right. That sounds good. And we'll have a contact email on the Facebook page as well. So,
Okay.
Independent Bank sponsors this here enterprise. It's Cadillac Unscripted, and we'll have some more local chat. Same time, same station next week, 8:30 Saturday on 107.9 CDY.